Hello everyone, welcome to another video talking geeky stuff with me. So today's video is about Top Gun. So as a time of recording, I just watched Top Gun Maverick about 3 hours ago. 3 hours ago, yeah. So this is my initial thoughts of my quick review. So before we head, just like to warn everyone there'll be spoilers alert. I'll try my best not to spoil it, but I will spoil it. So you have been warned. So let me count down. 3, 2, 1. You have been warned. So anyway. So, Top Gun. It's kind of like a sequel to the 1986 Top Gun, starring Tom Cruise and Val Kilmer. And yeah, so this is what, 35, 36 years now. And let me start off saying that the film's good, so definitely check it out. I still prefer the first one. Maybe talking this nostalgic. I may watch this again. Let my thoughts settle in, because this is just the initial reaction, really. One thing about this movie, I think this one beats the first one, is the aerial combat, because of better technology, better cameras. I love the dogfights. I love the inside the cockpit. Those scenes, the sound effects of these planes that makes in the cinema, and the sound just literally, whenever there's like an action sequence, a training sequence, it does get your blood pumping. So that's definitely a plus. I will tell you as I go on with this review. I'll tell you one of the few reasons why I felt this wasn't as good as the first one. Let me just play the trailer so I can talk over that. So yeah, it starts off like the first scene actually gets your blood pumping, because you see the scene of like a battleship, and you see a F-18 just taking off and landing, and it has that song, Danger Zone, Take Me to the Danger Zone. That really takes you back to the 80s, and that really gave you a good a good feel of the movie. Very action packed. And also this is the hallmark, a trademark of a Jerry Bruckheimer film, because he produced him and Don Simpson produced the original one. Don has recently, I won't say recently, passed away a few years ago, rest in peace Don. But he still used Don Simpson and Jerry Bruckheimer production, so that's great. So it starts off with that bit, and then it goes into Tom Cruise in his hangar. So that's just fixing up his planes and so on. Then he gets his jacket on. Then he's on the motorbike. I mean, Tom Cruise on motorbikes is a given now, right? You got to have a motorbike scene with Tom Cruise now. So he rides to another hangar, and the first thing you see is like, wow, this plane is like a top secret plane or something. They're doing tests. It might be one of those, I think those the stealth planes, the big black ones. There's B-2 bombs or something like that. It reminds of those. And then there's some bad news saying that a colonel or admiral, who's Ed Harris, he plays him, the rear admiral, that's something like that, yeah, coming to close down the project because they haven't reached Mark 10. They only got to Mark 9. So they thought, okay, before the admiral gets here, let's do another test run. So he gets in the plane, he starts doing up to Mark 10. That seems brilliant. I think they used real life footage and some CG. They really captured the speed of the plane going to Mark 10. And remember his I can't remember his name. One of his guys, engineers, say you just go to Mark 10. You don't need to go to 10.1, 10.2. And this is a typical character. Pushes it to Mark 10.1, 10.2, 10.3. And the plane burns up, and he had to escape. And the funny scene, he walks into like a cafe at the other side of the country or something like that. That's pretty fun. So anyway, he goes and talks to Ed, and then they're shutting down the project. Lucky they was going to discharge him or something, but lucky he had a backup, which is Val Kilmer, Iceman, who's a really top admiral who kind of saved him, and you're going to transfer him to a base where he's going to train a bunch of pilots in Top Gun. So he goes over there and meets John Hamm. John Hamm say, you weren't even on my list. I don't know why you're here. But of course, he has backup, Val Kilmer. Gave him the job to train a bunch of pilots to do a mission. of this country's got this their story inside sort of nuclear material. What is it, uranium or something like that? And what I liked about it, they didn't tell you which country it's from. My guess from the ending, the whole scene, is probably Russian because it looks like Russian landscapes. But I'm just glad they didn't mention any country's name. So they now have to do this mission, and it's almost like a Mission Impossible. A little film coming soon. It's called a little Mission Impossible, and he's training them up. And what follows is a great scene. This is, I think, this storyline of Top Gun. One of the things that kind of how do you say it, let me down. It's not a letdown, but it's also a letdown at the same time. You can take this movie and kind of place it in the 80s. You wouldn't feel out of place, apart from the the effects, the camera, the HD quality, all that kind of stuff. But the actual storyline, even the dialogue, is very 80s and maybe early 90s. Because I was predicting things, and I was right all the time, really, to be honest. Even dialogues I was predicting, I got it right. And it's usual things, these pilots are the best at their best, so they come across a bit arrogant. And then I find out this guy doing it, he's past his sell-by date, is he still any good? And then, of course, Tom Cruise has to prove himself, and what end up with like a bet. They're going to test out the dogfights by using just the guns, no rockets, and whoever loses, do 200 push-ups. It goes on for about 7-8 minutes. That was a really good scene. I loved it. Like really tells you how it showcased how good Tom Cruise was, and the pilot slowly appreciates and starts to respect him. Except for Miles Teller, Bradley Bradshaw character, who's Tom Cruise's wingman from the first movie, who died in an accident. So there's kind of grudge between the two of them because Bradley thinks it was Tom Cruise's fault. So there's that kind of history to it. On topic of history and character, here's another letdown for me as well. It's because Tom Cruise is one of the last proper movie stars, really. I did a video last year about Tom Cruise saying that he is, in my opinion, the last movie star where his name can still sell films. I don't think there's anyone out there who can actually sell a film. I would say maybe Leonardo DiCaprio, maybe him, but Tom Cruise is still probably the only living legend. His own stunts, producing, and still sells tickets just off his name. His star power is so big here that it dwarfs everyone around him. It's a bit unfair because I got to the point where, apart from maybe Miles Teller and maybe Hangman, the other guy, they didn't really have any character development. It got to the point where the end I was like, I didn't really care for the other characters. For example, Jennifer Connelly character, Penny. I don't know why she was there. I didn't really do much apart from just have maybe a love interest for him. Or see some sort of a voice of advice or something like that. Even the advice she gave was so predictable. These are your men. You need to do all that stuff. I kind of like, okay, seen it, heard it before, sort of thing. So this is about 130 minutes long. In this day and age, I think people are much more accepting to longer films. I think even to a point where people actually prefer longer films now. They feel like if it's anything less than 2 hours, it's almost like shortchanged. So this film could have done with maybe another 15 minutes and use those times to kind of develop the characters, supporting cast, because they got the combat and the dogfights down to the T. This is some of the best dogfights you've ever seen. And with not many special effects, this is pure real stuff. They're actually in the plane. So they got that down to the T, but the characterization was little to none, to be honest with you, and I didn't care too much about the characters. So that's a bit of a shame. That's one of the things that let me down about this film, because Tom Cruise is just a big movie star. Every time he's on the scene, it's kind of like you're just focused on him, which is, I know that's what happens when you become the biggest movie star probably of all time. Anyway, moving forward, they do this mission, and Tom Cruise saying they're not ready, and then there's a good scene as well. I wish it could have played out a little bit longer, where Pete Maverick meets up with Val Kilmer, Tom, Iceman. That scene was great. You can see that his character is very ill, can't speak, and very emotional. I thought that scene could have been a little bit longer. I thought that was a touching moment. And then, of course, Val Kilmer, like I said, spoilers. His character dies later on. and because he's Tom Cruise's only backup, so John Hamm kind of takes over the projects, changes the strategy of this mission, and to be honest with you, the strategy was crap because by that time all the pilots were kind of respecting, respecting Tom Cruise's character. They kind of respect his skills, his attitude, and all that kind of stuff. And then, like I said, it goes to Jennifer Collins' character, Penny. Penny gives a speech, which, to be honest, I felt it was so flat. It wasn't corny. It was just very predictable. It had no meat. It's just like, yeah, these are your pilots. You're supposed to be doing this. Earn it back. Show them all that kind of stuff. Like, yeah, okay, seen it, heard it before. He had no impact. I don't know why. I just didn't like that bit. So anyway, what followed was a brilliant scene. While John Hamm was briefing the team of the new strategy, a rogue plane comes in. Tom Cruise steals a F-18 just to prove them that his original strategy can work and will work. And then what follows a good couple of minutes. Now you have to hit the target by 2 minutes and 15 seconds. He does it. It follows, like, he goes low into the mountains. There's these amazing maneuvers, hits the target, and then kind of prove John Hamm, the Admiral, that he's right. So here's another thing that's predictable. John Hamm grills him for saying, you've done this, it's a rhetorical question, I'm going to make you as the team leader. Because the whole film was like, he's training these combat pilots and he has to pick the team leader. When he said that in the beginning of the film, I thought, okay, this is what's going to happen. Tom Cruise is going to become the team leader. Everything is very predictable. Like I mentioned, this film would not look out of place during the 80s. So anyway, the mission goes ahead, and yeah, so they go into this mission, and the mission reminds me of a bit of the Star Wars, A New Hope, where Luke has to go into the Death Star and shoots this thing, because Tom Cruise does the first mission, shoots the target, kind of gets the opening, and Miles Teller follows in, and his laser wasn't working, so he actually used his missiles manually, and it hits the target, it blows up. So that's very Star Wars, and then then the enemy jet scrambles and they join a dogfight, and then you've got these kind of like these missiles that are locked onto them, and they keep on firing. That scene was fantastic over the mountain, where they dodge using flares and stuff like that. Was amazing. That was, I don't think I've seen it that good before. I mean, as good as all these dogfights in space, this is real life, this is real technology that we got. So that's one thing I love. And the soundtrack, the sound of these engines. Speaking about that, there was actually no soundtrack. Once they got to the ending, the whole scene where they go in there was actually no music, just raw engines and sound of the plane. That was good. I like that, because I think that was a deliberate move where you don't need sound to drown out the actual engines of the planes. So like Tom Cruise saves Miles Teller's life, gets shot down, and the Admiral John Hamm said, no, everybody retreat. But of course, Miles Teller character turns around, saves Tom Cruise. He gets shot down, shoots down, and then quickly had the plan go into the base, where the base was already been bombed by the ship's Tomahawk missiles. So during the commotion, there's still a F-14 plane. And to be honest, I actually liked the F-14 plane. There was a scene where the camera views up. It had this kind of really nice triangle shape. It reminds me of the designs of Macross, because we all know Macross planes are based off the F-14s, if I remember correctly. So I like that. And then they steal it, they fly, and they run into the enemy's planes. I don't know what they call. They didn't call them. They just called them 5th generation planes. And it's meant to be like even better than the F-18. They have a big dogfight, and yeah, and Miles keep on reminding Tom Cruise it's not the plane, it's the pilot, and he sets up another good scene of dogfighting. So yeah, all of that crap. Oh, sorry, not all that crap, all that good stuff. Sorry, bad wording there. So I guess to the end, and they missed out. There's one more pilot, one more enemy plane flying towards them. They ran out of missiles, ran out of bullets, and there was no escape. The enemy had them locked in. Just before the missile got launched, Hangman comes in and saves them, which I predicted again. Like I said, this film is very predictable because it follows very similar beats as very 80s movies of that time. But that's not a bad thing, I suppose. It's very paying homage to the original movie, so both fans of the original and the new audience can appreciate this because it's a very simple film to follow. Nothing too confusing, nothing amazing. The dialogue was pretty tamed, straightforward, straight to the point. So some people may say that's a bad thing. I think it was okay, very predictable. And the ending was even more predictable, when he goes and finds Penny, Jennifer Connelly's character, in her bar and finds out she's gone sailing with her daughter. It skips another minute. He's back in his hangar with Miles Teller, Bradley, fixing the plane. He looks over, sees Jennifer's, Penny's character's daughter. She looks over, and then outside the hangar, she's just leaning on her Porsche. Sunset in the background, looking cool. They go over and then have a little kiss, and a song plays. That was very typical 80s and very Jerry Bruckheimer production movie. So overall, it's a great movie. Definitely check it out. Like I said, I enjoyed the first one more because I suppose I need to watch it again because I watched Top Gun originally about a couple of years ago and I still enjoyed it. But this one, the new one, definitely has way better, in my opinion, better cinematography. The dogfight is better, because the technology is improving. The sound is better. Yeah, so this one's still good, but I still prefer the first one. Maybe it's, like I said, nostalgia. But for someone who's new, who hasn't seen the original one, maybe reverse, because, even though the first one may not stand the test of time for the new audience. But anyway, let me know what you think. And thank you for watching. And please subscribe for more talking geeky stuff. Until next time, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are in the world. And please stay safe, because apparently there's a new virus coming out called monkeypox. So please stay safe for that. Anyway, until next time, goodbye.